Hey guys. Tonight we slip into the sun scorched world of ancient Egypt, where the pyramids rise like giants under the gentle patter of rain sounds, weaving a soothing spell that might just carry you to sleep. Picture yourself curled up, the air heavy with the scent of desert dust and distant Nile reeds, as raindrops tap softly outside, blending with the faint creak of wooden sledges. You're about to step into the life of a pyramid laborer, your hands calloused, your back bent under the weight of stone and ambition. Fair warning with the rain and this tale of endless toil. You might not make it to the end without nodding off. Those ancient shifts were brutal. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment with your city and local time. I love picturing where you're listening as the rain falls. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. The first light of dawn barely creeps over the horizon, but you're already stirring. The air is cool, almost kind, though you know it won't last. A sharp crack splits the silence an overseer's whip, not striking flesh, but snapping the air to rouse you and hundreds of others from reed mats in the workers' camp. Your muscles ache from yesterday, a dull reminder of the limestone blocks you hauled under a merciless sun. You rub sleep from your eyes, the scent of sweat and earth clinging to your rough linen kilt. The rain sounds in your mind, our little modern trick, soften the moment. But back then, it was just the dry rustle of palm fronds and the low groans of waking men. You're no slave, though the work feels like it. Historians note that many laborers were farmers, conscripted during the Nile's flood season when fields lay submerged. You're one of them, pulled from your village to serve the pharaoh, Khufu, whose great pyramid at Giza is swallowing your days. The camp buzzes now, men shuffling, some muttering prayers to Ra for strength. You grab a stale hunk of bread, your breakfast, and tuck it into a cloth. No time for lingering. The overseers, with their coal-rimmed eyes and impatient strides, are already barking orders. Move, you sluggards, or the stones will outlast you, one shouts. And you stifle a smirk. Stones outlasting you feels like a safe bet, the quirky thing. Some workers smeared crocodile dung on their skin, swearing it kept the sun from burning. Smelled awful. But you've seen worse ideas fail less. Historians still argue whether this was common or just a wild tale from Herodotus, that old Greek gossip. You don't bother with it. Your skin's tough as leather already. You join the line of men filing out, sandals slapping packed earth. The pyramid looms in the distance, half built, but already monstrous. Its limestone casing gleaming faintly in the dawn. It's a marvel, sure, but mostly it's your prison, your purpose, your endless task. And you trudge toward the quarry, a mile off, where the day's real work begins. The air warms fast, and sweat beads on your brow before the sun's fully up. You pass women carrying water jars, their chatter a fleeting comfort, and children scurrying with baskets of tools. Everyone's bound to the same rhythm build: haul, repeat. The overseers ride donkeys, their whips coiled but ready, and you keep your head down. One wrong glance could earn you a lashing, or worse, extra hours. You've heard of men collapsing under the strain, their names forgotten before the next shift. A grim joke circulates: the pyramid's hungry, but it doesn't eat the lazy. You don't laugh. The quarry's edge comes into view, a jagged scar in the desert where copper picks and wooden wedges wait. You're handed a pick, its handle worn smooth by countless hands. The overseer points to a chalk-marked section of limestone. Cut there. He grunts, and you nod. Knowing words are wasted, you swing the pick, and the first jolt of stone against metal shudders up your arms. Another day has begun, and the pyramid demands its due. The rain sounds hum softly, a gentle lie against the harsh truth of your labor. You swing again, and the world narrows to stone, sweat, and the endless beat dry of your heart. The horizon glows orange now, and you're halfway to Giza's sprawling construction site, your sandals sinking into the desert's shifting sands. The rain sounds we've woven in soft, steady, like a whisper from another world, drape a calming veil over the scene. But they can't erase the heat already creeping up your neck. You're one of thousands trudging in loose columns, a human river flowing toward the pyramid's half-finished bulk. Men around you mutter, some cursing the dust, others humming old songs from their villages. Your legs move on instinct, each step heavier than the last, as if the desert itself is clinging to you, saying, "Stay, rest." But rest is a dream for another life. You pass a weathered obelisk, its hieroglyphs faded but proud, marking the path to the plateau. Mainstream history tells us Giza's workforce peaked at 20,000 to 40,000, a mix of seasonal laborers like you and skilled masons who'll never know your name. The scale hits you every morning. The pyramid's base could swallow your village whole, and it's only getting taller. You squint at it, a jagged silhouette against the dawn, and wonder how many lives it's already claimed. A grim joke floats through the crowd. Khufu's tomb loves company. You snort, but it's not funny when you've seen men carried off, limbs crushed by stone. The quirky bit workers sometimes scratched graffiti on the block's crude drawings of boats or names like Sneferu's boys. Archaeologists found these, proof you weren't just cogs, but people with a spark of defiance. Historians still argue whether this was pride or rebellion, a way to say, "I was here before the desert forgot you. You haven't carved anything yet. Your hands are too tired, your heart too heavy, but you get it, immortality's tempting. Even if it's just a scratch on limestone, The crowd thickens as you near the site. Dust swirls, kicked up by thousands of feet, and you pull your headscarf tighter, coughing into it. The air smells of sweat, baked earth, and something sharper, fear. Maybe, or exhaustion so deep it's got its own scent. You spot familiar faces. Kimwaset, a wiry man who shares his water when yours runs dry, and Jadef, who's always muttering about quitting but never does. Another day in paradise, Kayemwaset says, winking, and you roll your eyes. His sarcasm keeps you sane, a reminder there's still room for humor in this grind. Overseers ride alongside, their donkeys snorting, their eyes scanning for stragglers. One, a bald man with a scar across his cheek, points his whip at a limping boy. Keep up, or you'll sleep with the scorpions, he barks. The boy stumbles forward, and you look away, your stomach twisting. You've learned to focus on your own steps, your own survival. The pyramid's shadow looms closer now, its lower courses gleaming with polished casing stones. It's beautiful, in a cruel way, like a god that demands blood to shine. You pass a cluster of tents where scribes tally workers and supplies, their papyrus scrolls fluttering in the breeze. They're the lucky ones, you think, their hands stained with ink instead of blisters. Beyond them, the quarry's din grows louder, picks clanging, men shouting, stones groaning as their pride free. You're almost there, and your body knows it, tensing for the day's toll. The rain sounds hum on, a gentle counterpoint to the chaos, like a friend whispering, "It's okay, just breathe." But breathing's all you've got left, and even that feels borrowed. The sight opens before you, a chaotic sprawl of ramps, sledges, and half-carved blocks. The pyramid rises at its heart, tiered and unfinished, surrounded by heaps of sand and rubble. You pause, catching your breath, and feel the weight of it, all the stone, the sun, the endless days. Someone claps your shoulder. Kamwaset, grinning like a fool. Ready to build a god's house, he asks. You shake your head, but a faint smile tugs at your lips. You're not ready, not really, but the desert doesn't care. And neither does Khufu. The quarry yawns before you, a jagged wound in the Giza plateau, its limestone cliffs scarred by countless picks. The rain sounds were threading through this tale, soft, rhythmic, like a lullaby from a kinder world, dampen the harsh clatter of copper against stone. But they can't mute the heat radiating from the rock. You're handed a pick, its wooden handle warm from the last man's grip, and you join a line of laborers hacking at a chalk-marked seam. Each swing sends a jolt through your shoulders, dust rising in clouds that sting your eyes and coat your throat. The sun's fully up now, a relentless eye glaring down, and you're already sweating through your kilt. Mainstream history confirms the Great Pyramid's core was built from local limestone, quarried right here, with over 2 million blocks cut and hauled by hands like yours as. The scale's staggering. Some blocks weigh as much as a small house, and you're supposed to shape them with tools barely better than sticks. You pause to wipe your brow, squinting at a nearby team using wooden wedges to split stone. They chant in rhythm, a low hum that keeps their swing steady, and you wonder if they're praying or just too tired to talk. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some workers chewed garlic to ward off illness, believing its pungent kick scared away evil spirits. You've tried it, and it mostly just scares away friends. But you'll take any edge in this place. Historians still argue whether the quarry's output relied more on brute force or clever tricks, like wetting sand to reduce friction. You don't care about the debate. Your arms are screaming, and the block you're cutting is barely half-shaped. Swing harder, or we'll be here till Ra retires, Kamwaset calls from a few feet away, grinning despite the dust caking his face. You roll your eyes, but swing again, if only to shut him up. The overseer paces behind you, his shadow flickering across the stone. Faster he snaps, and you grit your teeth, knowing he's less interested in speed than in looking busy for the scribes. You've seen those papyrus pushers, perched in the shade, tallying blocks like they're counting sheep. Lucky bastards. You glance at the block you're shaping. Its edges rough, but starting to square. It's satisfying, in a bone-deep way, to see stone bend to your will. But the satisfaction fades fast when you remember you've got dozens more to cut before dusk. A shout breaks your focus. A worker's pick has snapped, the copper head flying into the dust. He curses, and the overseer's on him in seconds. Whip raised but not striking. Replace it and keep working. The man growls, and the worker scrambles to obey. You've seen worse punishments, but you keep your head down, your swing steady. The quarry's a dangerous place. Loose stones, bad tools, and heat that makes men dizzy. Last week, a block tipped and crushed a man's foot. He's gone now, back to his village or the afterlife. You don't know which. You shift your grip, the pick's handle slick with sweat, and notice a faint carving on the cliff face, a crude falcon, maybe Horus, etched by some bored laborer. It's a small rebellion, a mark that says, I existed. You're tempted to add your own, but the overseer's too close, and you're not that brave. Or maybe you're just too tired. The rain sounds hum on, a gentle lie against the quarry's chaos, urging you to keep going. One swing at a time, you do, because stopping isn't an option, and the pyramid's hunger never sleeps. Another joke ripples through the line. Why's the stone so stubborn? It's got Khufu's heart. You chuckle, the sound dry in your throat, and swing again. The block's almost done, and you feel a flicker of pride, quickly smothered by the thought of the next one. The sun climbs higher, the dust thickens, and you lose yourself in the rhythm swing. Crack, swing, crack. The quarry's a beast, and you're just one of its many claws, carving out a god's tomb, one painful chip at a time. The quarry's dust still clings to your skin as you're herded toward the ramps, where the real test begins, dragging the limestone blocks you just cut. The rain sounds we've layered in, soft and steady like a distant storm, wrap the scene in a dreamy haze, but they can't dull the ache in your shoulders or the burn of rope against your palms. You're part of a team of 20, roped to a massive block that weighs more than all of you combined. The sled beneath it creaks, barely easing the load as you lean into the ropes, your sandals digging into the packed earth. The ramp slopes upward, a cruel incline toward the pyramid's growing tears, and every step feels like a battle you're losing. Mainstream history estimates that moving a single block could take hours, with teams hauling stones over ramps that stretched hundreds of meters. The Great Pyramid's construction required millions of these trips, a logistical nightmare powered by sweat and stubbornness. You pull, your muscles screaming, and feel the block inch forward, the sled's runners grinding against the ramp's surface. Your team chants a low, rhythmic heave to keep time, but your voice is hoarse, barely joining in. Kaimwaset, roped in beside you, mutters, "This stone's lazier than my cousin." You smirk. Despite the pain, his dumb jokes are the only thing lighter than air around here. Here's the quirky bit. Some workers painted their ropes with red ochre, believing it brought luck or pleased the gods. You've seen the faded streaks on older ropes, but yours is plain, fraying, and smells like despair. Historians still argue whether the ramps were straight, zigzagged, or wrapped around the pyramid like a spiral. Nobody's cracked that puzzle. You don't care about the shape. You just know the ramp's too long, too steep, and your legs are begging for mercy. The block shifts slightly, and you stumble, catching yourself before the overseer notices. His whip's coiled, but his glare's enough to keep you moving. The ramp's surface is slick with sand, deliberately spread to reduce friction, but it's a double-edged sword. Your sandals slip, and the rope bites deeper into your hands. You glance back at the block, its edges catching the midday sun, and wonder how something so lifeless can be so heavy. The pyramid looms above, its lower courses nearly complete, the casing stones gleaming like a promise of eternity. Eternity's great for Khufu, you think, but you'd settle for a nap. Another team passes you, heading down for the next block, their faces blank with exhaustion. You recognize Jedef, his eyes downcast, and wonder if he's still dreaming of quitting. A shout from ahead snaps you back. A block on another ramp has jammed, its sled tipped at an angle. The team scrambles to right it, overseers barking, and you're glad it's not your mess. Accidents like this happen daily. You've seen ropes snap, sleds splinter, men collapse. Last month, a block slid backward and broke a man's leg. He screamed until they carried him off, and you haven't seen him since. The memory makes you grip the rope tighter, your knuckles whitening. Keep pulling. You slugs, the overseer yells. And you do, because stopping means trouble, and trouble means pain. The rain sounds hum on, a gentle counterpoint to the grunts and groans around you. They're like a friend whispering, "You're okay. Just one more step." But one more step becomes 10, then 100, and the ramp stretches on. You pass a water carrier, a boy no older than 12, his jar sloshing as he hurries by. You'd kill for a sip, but there's no stopping now. Another bad joke floats through the team. Why's the pyramid so tall? Khufu's ego needs room. You chuckle, the sound scraping your dry throat, and pull harder. The block moves, inch by agonizing inch, and you feel the pyramid's hunger, devouring your strength one haul at a time. The ramp's incline finally levels out, and your team drags the limestone block to a staging area near the pyramid's rising tiers. The rain sounds gentle, pattering, like a soft hand on your shoulder cloak, the scene in a soothing hum. But they can't erase the fire in your muscles or the grit caking your skin. You're allowed a brief respite now, a rare moment to slump against a pile of sandbags and catch your breath. The overseer's turned his glare elsewhere, so you untie the rope from your waist, your hands throbbing where it dug in. A water carrier approaches, offering a clay cup, and you gulp the warm, silty liquid, savoring every drop like it's the last you'll get. It might be. Mainstream history records that laborers like you were fed a diet heavy in bread, onions, and beer basic, but enough to keep you moving. The beer's weak, more like porridge than a party, but it's a lifeline in this heat. You pull out your ration, a hunk of coarse bread and a single onion, and chew slowly. The onion's sharp bite cutting through the dust in your mouth. The shade from a makeshift canopy feels like a gift from the gods, though you know it's just palm fronds propped on sticks. Kamwaset flops beside you, tearing into his own bread. "This feast," he says, waving his onion, "fit for a pharaoh." "Right, you," snort, shaking your head, his sarcasms sharper than the onion. Here's the quirky tidbit. Archaeologists found fish bones in workers' camps, suggesting you got protein occasionally. Maybe Nile perch grilled over campfires. You haven't seen fish in weeks, though, and your stomach grumbles at the thought. Historians still argue whether these breaks were tightly scheduled or left to the overseer's whims. Some say you got hours, others barely minutes. You're lucky today. The sun's high, and the overseer's distracted, so you stretch your legs, feeling the ache ease slightly. The pyramid looms behind you, its half-built tiers a jagged staircase to the sky, and you wonder how many more blocks it'll demand before it's done. Hey everyone, we've reached this point. Have you drifted off to sleep yet? If you're still awake, drop a comment to let me know where you're at and how you're feeling. But if you're already fast asleep, I wish you a deep, restful sleep filled with beautiful dreams. The rain sounds are still falling, soft and steady. So let's slip back into the story, easing you along with that gentle patter in the background. You glance at the other laborers sprawled around, some napping, others muttering about home. A man nearby, older, his face lined like cracked clay, tells a story about his daughter's wedding. His voice soft but proud. It stings, reminding you of your own family, far away, their faces fading in your memory. You shake it off, focusing on the bread's gritty texture. The onions sting. The break's too short for deep thoughts. A boy scurries by, collecting empty cups, and you hand him yours, nodding thanks. He's skinny, all elbows and knees, and you wonder if he'll end up hauling stones like you someday. Probably. The overseer's whistle cuts the air, sharp as a blade, and you groan, stuffing the last of your bread into your mouth. Up, you lazy dogs, he shouts, and you rise, your body protesting. The canopy's shade vanishes as you step into the sun, the heat slamming you like a fist. Your team's assigned a new block, already on a sledge, and you grab the rope again, the fibers rough against your blistered palms. Another joke ripples through the group. Why's the bread so tough? It's training us for the stones. You chuckle, but it's half-hearted. The pyramid's shadow feels heavier than the block you're about to pull. The rain sounds hum on, a quiet promise of calm that doesn't belong here. You lean into the rope, the sled creaking, and start the next haul. The break's memory fades fast, swallowed by the grind, but that onion's taste lingers, a small anchor in the endless day. The pyramid watches, silent and insatiable, as you give it another piece of yourself. The midday sun hammers down as you and your team wrestle a granite block, heavier than the limestone you're used to, onto a sledge. The rain sounds we've woven in soft, rhythmic, like a whisper from a gentler world hum in the background. But they can't cool the sweat dripping into your eyes or ease the strain in your back. Granite's a beast, quarried far up the Nile and floated here on barges. And now, it's your job to push it across muddy tracks to the pyramid's base. The sledge's wooden runners sink slightly into the earth, slathered with wet clay to reduce friction, but every shove feels like moving a mountain. Your team grunts in unison, feet slipping, muscles burning. As the block inches forward, mainstream history notes that granite, used for the pyramid's inner chambers, required immense effort to transport some blocks weighed up to 80 tons. You're not sure how much this one is, but it's enough to make your knees buckle. The track's uneven, littered with pebbles that catch the sledge, and you curse under your breath, hoping the overseer doesn't hear. Camwaset, pushing beside you. Pants. This rock's got a grudge. You manage a dry laugh. His quips are like water in this desert, rare and vital. Here's the quirky tidbit. Workers sometimes poured milk on the tracks, believing it pleased the gods, or maybe just made the clay slicker. You've seen it done. The white liquid soaking into the mud, and wondered if it's superstition or desperation. Historians still argue whether the sledges moved better on wet or dry surfaces. Experiments suggest wet clay helped, but you're too busy shoving to care about theories. The block lurches forward, and you stumble, catching yourself on the sledge's edge. The wood's hot, splintered, and you wince as a sliver digs into your palm. The overseer rides nearby, his donkey snorting, his whip tapping his thigh like a warning. Keep it steady, he barks, and you grit your teeth, pushing harder. The track curves toward the pyramid, its lower tiers now towering above, the casing stones gleaming like a cruel mirror of the sun. You pass a team heading back for another load, their faces blank, eyes down. One man limps, his ankle wrapped in dirty linen, and you look away, not wanting to imagine yourself in his place. Injuries are common: smashed fingers, twisted backs, and you've learned to ignore the pain in your own body, at least until nightfall. A low chant rises from your team, a work song about the Nile's flow, and you join in, the words grounding you. The rhythm helps, sinking your pushes, but the block's stubborn, resisting every effort. You notice a faint carving on its side, a boat, scratched by some worker long before it reached Giza. It's like that falcon you saw in the quarry, a small cry of, "I was here." You wonder who carved it, if they're still alive, still pushing. The thought's fleeting, the sledge jolts, and you refocus, planting your feet firmer in the mud. Another joke ripples through the team. Why's granite so mean? It knows it's royalty. You chuckle, the sound rough in your dry throat, and shove again. The pyramid's shadow creeps closer, swallowing the track, and you feel its weight, not just the stone, but the years, the lives, the endless labor it demands. The rain sounds keep pattering, a soft lie against the grind, urging you to keep going. You do, because there's no other choice. And the block moves, grudgingly, toward its place in eternity. The granite block finally rests at the pyramid's base. But there's no time to savor the victory. Your team's now hauling baskets of earth to build the next ramp. The rain sounds, soft and steady, like a far-off lullaby, weave through the scene, softening the crunch of sand underfoot. But they can't lighten the weight of the basket slung across your shoulders. It's packed with damp soil, dug from a nearby pit, and each step up the half-built ramp sends a jolt through your spine. The sun's dipping lower, casting long shadows, but the heat still clings, your kilt soaked with sweat. You're building the path for tomorrow's stones, a task as endless as the desert itself. Mainstream history suggests the Great Pyramid's ramp were temporary, made of earth and rubble, then dismantled as the structure rose. Some ramps climbed straight, others zigzagged, but all were back-breaking to construct. You dump your basket at the ramp's edge, watching the soil spill, and trudge back for another load. The basket's straps dig into your shoulders, leaving raw patches you'll feel tonight. Chemwaset, hauling nearby, groans, building a road to nowhere. You smirk his gripings, the only thing keeping you from screaming. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some workers tied papyrus cords around their baskets, swearing it made the load feel lighter. Maybe a charm for strength. You've tried it, and it's nonsense, but you keep the cord anyway. It's something to fidget with during rare breaks. Historians still argue whether the ramps were built in stages or all at once. A debate that means nothing when you're the one carrying the dirt. Your arms burn as you scoop another load, the pit's edge crumbling under your sandals. The overseer watches, his whip idle, but his eyes sharp, and you move faster, not wanting his attention. The ramp's taking shape, a sloping beast that'll soon carry blocks higher up the pyramid. You pass men packing the earth with wooden tampers, their rhythmic thuds blending with the rain sound's gentle patter. It's oddly soothing, like a heartbeat, but the moment's ruined when a basket slips from a man's grip, spilling soil across the path. Clumsy fool the overseer snaps, and the man scrambles to scoop it up. Head bowed, you've dropped loads before everyone has, but you keep your eyes down, focusing on your own basket. Sympathy's a luxury you can't afford. A memory flickers, that crocodile dung sunscreen from your first days here, stinking but oddly comforting. You haven't used it lately. Your skin's too tough now. Or maybe you're just too tired to care. The ramp stretches ahead, already long enough to make your legs ache at the thought of climbing it tomorrow with stones. Another team hauls timber to reinforce the structure, their shouts sharp against the evening air. You spot Jedef among them, his face grim, and wonder if he's still muttering about escape. Probably not hope's a heavy thing to carry here. A bad joke cuts through the grunts. Why's the ramp so steep? Khufu wants us crawling. You chuckle, the sound dry as the desert, and heft your basket higher. The pyramid looms, its tiers sharper now in the fading light. A monument to a god king who'll never know your name. You dump another load, the soil piling up, and feel a flicker of pride. Stupid. Maybe. But it's yours. The rain sounds hum on, a quiet promise of rest that's nowhere in sight. You grab another basket, the grind swallowing you whole, one step, one load at a time. The ramp's earth is still settling under your feet as you're pulled to a new task. But the day's taken a darker turn, and accidents rock the work site. The rain sounds, gentle and rhythmic, like a distant drizzle. Wrap the chaos in a soft veil, but they can't hush the shouts or the knot in your gut. A limestone block, half hauled up a nearby ramp, slipped its sledge, pinning a man before anyone could react. You're not close enough to see his face, but you hear the screams, sharp and raw, until they fade to moans. Your team stopped. Rope slack, as overseers bark orders and men scramble to lift the stone. Mainstream history confirms accidents were common during the Great Pyramid's construction. Skeletal remains show broken bones, crushed limbs, and spines worn from heavy loads. The block's been shifted now, and you catch a glimpse of the man, his leg twisted at a sickening angle, blood soaking the sand. He's carried off on a makeshift stretcher, his groans swallowed by the site's din. You turn away, your hands trembling as you grip the rope, pretending to adjust it. Kamwaset beside you mutters, "Gods, that could have been us." You nod, unable to speak, the truth too heavy to voice. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some workers wore linen bandages soaked in honey, believing it healed cuts or warded off infection. You've seen it, sticky and yellowed, on a friend's arm after a chisel slipped. It smells sweet, but looks grim, and you're not sure it works. Historians still argue whether the pyramid's death toll was in the hundreds or thousands. Records are scarce, and bones don't tell the full story. You don't need numbers to know the site's dangerous. Every creak of a sledge, every wobble of a block, feels like a warning. The overseer's voice snaps you back. "Enough gawking, pull," he shouts, and you lean into the rope, your team hauling a new block toward the ramp's base. The rhythm's off, everyone's shaken, but you move anyway. The grind, a cruel distraction. The pyramid looms, its tears clawing the sky, and you wonder how many lives it's eaten. You pass a water carrier, his jar sloshing, and he avoids your eyes, like he's seen too much today. You want to ask about the injured man, but words stick in your throat, and he's gone before you try. A memory flickers that falcon carving in the quarry, a defiant mark against oblivion. You wish you'd added your own. Something to say you survived this place. The rope burns your palms, and you focus on the pain, letting it anchor you. Another team nearby chants a work song, but it's subdued. The note's flat. A bad joke tries to break the tension. Why'd the block fall? It was drunk on beer rations. You force a laugh, but it's hollow. Your mind still on the stretcher. The blood, the ramp's slope, bites your legs as you pull. The block inching upward. You spot a priest in the distance, sprinkling water on the ground. Maybe a ritual to appease the gods after the accident. It's not enough, you think, but you're too tired to care. The rain sounds hum on, a gentle lie against the site's brutality, urging you to keep going. You do, step by agonizing step, because stopping means facing the fear. And fear's a luxury you can't carry. The pyramid watches, silent, as you give it another piece of yourself, wondering if it'll take the rest. And the accident's shadow lingers, but the workday grinds on, and now you're standing at the pyramid's base, watching priests perform rituals to bless the stones. The rain sounds soft, pattering, like a whisper from a calmer world drape a soothing layer over the scene. But they can't mask the incense's sharp tang or the unease in your chest. The priests, draped in white linen, chant in low, rhythmic tones, their voices rising over the clatter of tools and shouts of laborers. They sprinkle Nile water from bronze bowls, gesturing toward the blocks your team hauled, as if their words can make the stone holy. You're not sure you believe it, but you bow your head anyway, better safe than angering the gods. Mainstream history tells us these rituals were central to pyramid construction, tying the pharaoh's tomb to divine order. The Great Pyramid was Khufu's gateway to the afterlife, and every block had to be purified to ensure his soul's journey. You watch a priest wave a censer, smoke curling upward, and catch the scent of myrrh, heavy and cloying. It's a rare moment of stillness, but it's not for you. The priests serve Khufu, not the men who bleed for him. Kemwaset, leaning on a sledge nearby, whispers, "Think they'll bless my blisters too." You stifle a chuckle, grateful for his irreverence in the solemn haze. Here's the quirky tidbit: some priests tossed lotus petals onto the stones, believing their scent pleased Anubis, the jackal-headed god of death. You've seen faded petals crushed under sledges, their beauty wasted, and wondered if the gods even notice. Historians still argue whether these rituals were daily or reserved for major milestones. Like finishing a tier, you don't care about the schedule. You just want this over so you can get back to work before the overseer's whip finds you. One priest glances your way, his coal-lined eyes cold, and you look down, suddenly very interested in the sand at your feet. The chants grow louder, and you shift uncomfortably, your legs stiff from standing. The pyramid looms behind the priests, its casing stones gleaming in the late afternoon light. A monument that feels more like a cage. You remember that honey-soaked bandage from the accident site, sticky and desperate, and wonder if the gods care as little for healing as they do for your exhaustion. The priests finish, bowing to the pyramid, and the overseer barks, "Back to it." You grab a rope, the ritual already fading from your mind. replaced by the familiar burn of labor. Your team's tasked with hauling another block, and you fall into the rhythm, the rope biting your palms. The priests linger, watching from the shade, their clean linens a stark contrast to your dust-caked kilt. A bad joke ripples through the team. Why's the incense so strong to cover Khufu's ego? You smirk. The humor, a small rebellion against the day's weight. The block moves, inch by inch, and you steal a glance at the pyramid, its tears clawing higher. The rituals might make it divine, but to you, it's just stone you've bled for. Stone that might outlast you. The rain sounds hum on, a gentle counterpoint to the grind, like a friend urging you to keep going. You pull harder. The priest's chants still echoing faintly, and wonder if the gods are watching or if you're just shouting into the void. The block shifts. The ramp waits, and you trudge on, one step closer to the end of another endless day. The priest's chants fade as you're handed a new task, shaping a limestone block with tools that feel older than the desert itself. The rain sounds soft, steady, like a gentle nudge towards sleep hum in the background, softening the scrape of chisel against stone, but they can't ease that ache in your wrists or the sun's relentless glare. You're crouched near the pyramid's base, wielding a copper chisel and a dolerite hammer. Their weight familiar but unforgiving. Each strike chips away at the block, sending dust into your eyes, and you squint, trying to keep the edge straight. The block's meant for a higher tier, and it's got to be perfect. Khufu's tomb doesn't tolerate flaws. Mainstream history confirms the Egyptians used simple tools like these copper chisels, flint scrapers, and hard stones like dolerite to shape millions of blocks with astonishing precision. You marvel at it sometimes. How these crude things carve stone so smooth you can barely see the joints. Your hammer's heavy, smoothed by countless hands, and you swing it carefully, the rhythm almost meditative. Kamwaset, working nearby, grunts as his chisel slips. This rock's fighting back, he says, and you grin. His complaints are as steady as the Nile. Here's the quirky tidbit: some workers rub sand into the stone surface, believing it polished faster, or maybe just to feel productive. You've tried it, and it's mostly a gritty mess. But you get the urge to do something, anything, to make the hours pass. Historians still argue whether the tools evolved over the pyramid's 20-year build or stayed stubbornly basic either way. Your blisters don't care. You strike again, the block's edge sharpening, and feel a flicker of pride, quickly drowned by the thought of the next block and the next. Hey everyone, we've reached this point. Have you drifted off to sleep yet? If you're still awake, drop a comment to let me know where you're at and how you're feeling. But if you're already fast asleep, I wish you a deep, restful sleep filled with beautiful dreams. The rain sounds are still pattering, gentle and calm. So let's ease back into the story. Carried by that soothing rhythm, you pause to wipe sweat from your brow. The chisel's handle slick in your grip. The pyramid looms, its tiers a jagged staircase to the gods, and you spot a mason nearby, his tools finer than yours, carving hieroglyphs into a casing stone. He's skilled, untouchable, and you envy him, though you'd never say it. Your job's simpler shape. Don't decorate, but it's no less brutal. A water carrier passes, and you wave for a sip, gulping the warm liquid like it's life itself. The boy's quick, gone before you can thank him, and you're back to the block. The hammer's weight pulling at your arm. A memory surfaces, that lotus petal from the priest's ritual. Crushed under a sledge, you wonder if your work's just as fleeting, destined to be forgotten. The thought's cut short by a shout. An overseer's spotted a crooked edge on another block, and the worker's getting an earful. You check your own block, relieved it's passable, and keep chiseling. A bad joke floats over. Why's the hammer so heavy? It's full of Khufu's dreams. You chuckle, the sound dry, and strike harder, the stone yielding just enough to keep you going. The rain sounds weave on, a quiet promise of rest you can't trust. You glance at the block, its edges nearly done, and feel the pyramid's pull, demanding more. The tools in your hands are simple, but they're all you've got, and they're enough to carve your mark, even if no one sees it. You swing again, the dust rising, and lose yourself in the grind. One chip at a time, the block you've chiseled is carted off, and nightfall finally grants you mercy, a brief escape from the pyramid's grip. The rain sounds gentle, rhythmic, like a soft hand guiding you to rest. Soften the distant clatter of the worksite winding down. But they can't hush the ache in your bones or the weight of another day survived. You trudge to the workers' village, a sprawl of mud brick huts huddled near Giza's edge, your sandals dragging through cooling sand. The sky's a deep indigo, pricked with stars, and the air carries the faint scent of smoke and baked bread. You're too tired to feel relief, but the thought of lying down pulls you forward. Mainstream history reveals these villages housed thousands, with bakeries, breweries, and even a basic hospital for the workforce. The huts are cramped, their reed roofs sagging, but they're a step above sleeping in the open. You reach your shared hut, ducking under the low doorway, and collapse onto a reed mat, the fibers prickling your back. KM Waset's already there, sprawled out, snoring like a hippo. You'd laugh if you had the energy. His snores are louder than the overseer's whip. Instead, you pull out your last scrap of bread, too stale to enjoy, but better than nothing. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some workers slept with small clay figurines under their mats. believing they'd ward off scorpions or bad dreams. You've got one. A crude ibis carved by a friend back home, tucked in your sack. It's probably nonsense, but you're not risking it, not after hearing about that cursed block that fell last week. Historians still argue whether the village was a grim labor camp or a community with flickers of normal life bakers kneading dough, kids playing in the dust. You see, both its home, but it's also a cage. Hey everyone, we've reached this point. Have you drifted off to sleep yet? If you're still awake, drop a comment to let me know where you're at and how you're feeling. But if you're already fast asleep, I wish you a deep, restful sleep filled with beautiful dreams. The rain sounds are still falling, soft and steady. So let's slip back into the story, easing you along with that gentle patter. You chew slowly, the bread's grit grinding between your teeth, and listen to the village hum, mothers singing to children, men arguing over beer rations. A fire crackles outside, its glow seeping through the hut's gaps. And you think of that honey-soaked bandage from the accident, sticky and futile. Your own hands are blistered, but you're too tired to care. A woman's voice drifts in, scolding someone for spilling water. And it reminds you of home, of nights when life wasn't just stone and sweat. You push the thought away. It's too heavy for now. A fat joke surfaces. One you heard today. Why's the night so short? Khufu's stealing it. You smirk, shifting on the mat, and feel the ibis figurine's outline in your sack. The stars outside are bright, but they feel distant, like the gods watching, maybe, but not helping. The rain sounds hum on, a quiet lie against the village's restless pulse, promising peace you can't quite grasp. You close your eyes, the mat's prickles fading, and let exhaustion pull you under, knowing dawn's whip will crack too soon. Dawn's whip cracks before the sun rises, pulling you from the reed mat and back to the grind. But today, you're navigating the worksite's pecking order. The rain sounds soft, pattering, like a gentle nudge toward calm hum in the background, dulling the clatter of tools and shouts. But they can't smooth the tension between you and the skilled artisans who strut past. You're a hauler, a grunt, your hands scarred from ropes and picks, while the masons and carvers, with their finer tools and cleaner kilts, eye you like your dust under their sandals. You trudge toward the quarry, dodging their smirks, your basket heavy with resentment. Mainstream history notes the pyramid's workforce was layered, unskilled laborers like you, conscripted farmers, toiled beside specialized craftsmen who cut casing stones or carved hieroglyphs. The artisans live better, eat better, and sleep in sturdier huts. Their status a constant jab. You spot one now. A mason with a bronze chisel, barking at a boy for dropping a measuring rod. Clumsy ox he snaps, and you grit your teeth, knowing he'd never speak to you at all. Kaimwaset, hauling beside you, mutters. They carve stone, but act like gods. You nod. His sarcasm a small shield against the sting. Here's the quirky tidbit. Artisans sometimes mark their tools with red paint, a flex to show they weren't common haulers. You've seen it, the bright streaks on their hammers, and rolled your eyes, your ropes are frayed, but they get the job done. Historians still argue whether this hierarchy sparked fights or just quiet grudges. Some say workers bonded over shared toil. Others that class divided you. You feel the divide today. A mason shoves past, his shoulder clipping yours, and you swallow a curse. Knowing a fight means lashes or worse. You reach the quarry, grabbing a pick, and start hacking at a limestone seam. The artisans work nearby, their strikes precise, their blocks destined for the pyramid's polished face. You're cutting rough core stones, less glamorous, but no less heavy. A memory flickers that ibis figurine under your mat, a small comfort against this place's weight. You swing harder, dust rising, and catch an artisan's glance, his lip curling. You look away, focusing on the stone, but the slight burns. Ignore 'em, Kamwaset says, sensing your mood. They'll be forgotten too. It helps, but not much. The overseer's shadow falls nearby, his whip tapping his thigh, and you work faster, not wanting trouble. A bad joke ripples through the haulers. Why's the mason so smug? His chisel's sharper than his wit. You smirk. The humor a brief spark in the grind. The pyramid looms in the distance, its tiers a testament to everyone's labor. But you know the artisans get the credit. Their names may be scratched on a casing stone. Yours, just another callus, another day. The rain sounds hum on, a gentle lie against the sight's sharp edges, urging you to keep swinging. You do. The picks jolt, numbing your arms. The hierarchies sting, fading into the endless rhythm of stone. The quarry's dust still clings to your skin as you're shifted to a new task, marveling at the pyramid's precision amidst the chaos of construction. The rain sounds gentle, rhythmic, like a soft whisper from a kinder world drape, a calming veil over the clatter of sledges and shouts. But they can't dull the awe you feel, staring at the structure's razor-sharp lines. You're hauling a basket of rubble to clear space for the next ramp, but your eyes keep drifting to the pyramid's lower tiers. Their casing stones aligned so tightly you couldn't slip a reed between them. It's a wonder, this geometric beast. And you're part of it, even if your role's just clearing its crumbs. Mainstream history confirms the Great Pyramid's alignment is near perfect. Its base almost exactly square and oriented to true north within a fraction of a degree. How they did it with ropes, stars, and basic tools baffles even modern engineers. You pause, dumping your basket, and squint at the stones, their polished surfaces catching the midday sun. You've heard whispers of star-gazing priests and sighting tools, but to you, it's magic you're bleeding for. Chemwaset, trudging beside you, snorts. Bet they used a really big stick. You grin his dumb jokes are a lifeline in this grind. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some workers swore the pyramid's angles were guided by sacred numbers, tying it to the gods' cosmic plan. You've overheard masons muttering about 3, 4, 5 triangles, but it's gibberish to you, just more stone to haul. Historians still argue whether this precision came from trial and error or a master plan laid out before the first block was cut. You don't care about the how. You're just struck by the result. A monument that feels like it's staring back, daring you to falter. You heft another basket, the rubble's weight tugging at your shoulders, and weave through the work site. Artisans nearby measure a casing stone, their voices sharp with focus, and you feel that familiar sting of their superiority. Remember those red-painted tools? You shake it off, focusing on the pyramid's base, its edges so clean they slice the horizon. A memory flickers that boat carving on a granite block, a small human mark against this divine machine. You wonder if your rubble clearing matters, if it's part of the magic or just busy work. The overseers shout, "Move!" You sluggard snaps you back, and you hurry. Sand crunching underfoot. A bad joke ripples through the haulers. Why's the pyramid so square? Khufu's too stiff to bend. You chuckle, the sound dry in your throat, and dump your load, watching it blend into the desert. The pyramid's shadow stretches, cooling the ground, and you steal a moment to trace its lines with your eyes, feeling small but strangely proud. The rain sounds hum on, a gentle counterpoint to the site's chaos, urging you to keep going. You grab another basket, the marvel fading into the grind, but its precision lingers, a quiet challenge to your weary hands. The pyramid's precision still lingers in your mind, but the Nile's annual flood has shifted your labor to a new grind, digging canals to manage the rising waters. The rain sounds soft, pattering like a gentle caress from a distant storm. Hum in the background, blending with the squelch of mud under your sandals. But they can't lighten the weight of the basket slung across your back, or the damp chill seeping into your bones. You're knee-deep in a muddy trench, scooping earth with a wooden hoe, the river's edge lapping nearby. The flood's a blessing for crops, but a curse for the pyramid schedule, and your job's to keep the water from swamping the worksite. Mainstream history notes that the Nile's inundation from July to October halted much of the pyramid's construction, redirecting laborers like you to canals and dikes. These channels ensured barges could deliver granite and kept the Giza plateau workable. You dump a basket of mud onto a growing embankment, your arms trembling, and glance at the river, its surface glinting under a cloudy sky. The work's different wetter, colder, but no less brutal than hauling stones. Kemwaset, digging nearby, slips in the muck and curses. This mud's stickier than an overseer's temper. He grumbles, and you smirk his gripings as reliable as the flood. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some workers tossed Nile fish into the canals, believing it pleased Sobek, the crocodile god, and kept the waters calm. You've seen a few do it. Their quick prayers half-hearted, and wondered if it's faith or just boredom. Historians still argue whether canal digging was a relief from stone hauling or just another way to break your back skeleton show the same wear either way. You don't care about the debate. The mud's heavy, the hose splintered, and your shoulders scream with every scoop. The overseer paces the embankment, his kilt splattered, but his whip dry, barking at a man who's slowed to wring out his scarf. Dig, or you'll sleep in the river, he snaps, and you keep your head down, scooping faster. The canal's taking shape, its banks rising to guide the flood, but it's slow work, and the river's relentless. You pass a boy carrying reeds to reinforce the embankment, his face smeared with mud. And remember that ibis figurine under your mat small, useless, but a tether to home. The thought's fleeting. A clod of mud slips, splashing your legs, and you refocus. The hose rhythm, your only anchor. A bad joke ripples through the diggers. Why's the Nile so bossy? It's got Khufu's crown? You chuckle, the sound muffled by the damp air, and heft another basket. The pyramid's distant now, a hazy silhouette through the mist, but its pull never fades. The rain sounds hum on, a gentle lie against the canal's slog, urging you to keep digging. You do. The mud sucking at your sandals. The flood's weight a reminder that even the river serves the pharaoh's will. Just like you. The canal's mud still clings to your sandals as you're back at the pyramid. The flood season fading. But now, your heart's heavy with thoughts of family left behind. The rain sounds soft, rhythmic, like a lullaby from a world you've half forgotten. Hum gently, softening the clatter of the worksite. But they can't drown the ache of absence or the weight of the basket on your shoulder. You're hauling rubble again, clearing space for a new ramp. Each step kicking up dust that mixes with memories of home, your sister's laugh, your mother's bread, a child's hand you haven't held in months. The desert stretches around you, vast and uncaring, and the pyramid looms, its tears a cruel reminder of why you're here. Mainstream history suggests many laborers were farmers like you, conscripted for months at a time, leaving families to fend for themselves. Some sent potsherds scratched with messages home, carried by traders or friends. You've got one in your sack, a shard with a clumsy note to your wife, promising you're alive. You haven't found a courier yet, and the thought of it sitting there, unsent, gnaws at you. Camwaset, dumping a basket nearby, catches your mood. Missin' home or just the mud, he asks, half joking. You shrug. Forcing a smile, his humor helps, but it doesn't fill the void. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some workers tied knots in palm fronds, one for each day away. A crude calendar to track their absence. You've seen them, brittle and frayed, tucked into belts, and started your own. Though you've lost count, historians still argue whether these long separations strengthened village ties or broke them. Some families thrived, others drifted apart. You feel the drift now, each day blurring the faces you love. You dump your rubble, the pile growing, and glance at the pyramid, its casing stones gleaming like a god's promise. It's not your promise, though. Yours is back home, waiting. Hey everyone, we've reached this point. Have you drifted off to sleep yet? If you're still awake, drop a comment to let me know where you're at and how you're feeling. But if you're already fast asleep, I wish you a deep, restful sleep filled with beautiful dreams. The rain sounds are still pattering, gentle and calm. So let's ease back into the story. Carried by that soothing rhythm, you trudge back for another load, passing a water carrier who hums a tune your sister used to sing. It stings, and you look away, focusing on the sand's crunch. A memory flickers that ibis figurine, your small anchor to home, still tucked under your mat. You wonder if your family's okay, if they're praying for you. The overseers shout. Faster, you dawdlers, snaps you back, and you hurry, the basket's straps biting your shoulders. A bad joke ripples through the haulers. Why's the desert so lonely? It's got no family. You force a chuckle, but it's hollow. Your mind on that unsent potsherd. Your heart somewhere far beyond Giza's sands. The rain sounds hum on, a quiet lie against the ache, urging you to keep moving. You grab another basket, the pyramid's shadow swallowing you, and trudge on, carrying home in your thoughts, one heavy step at a time. The weight of missing home still tugs at you, but the work site's grind leaves no room for longing. You're clutching an amulet now, whispering prayers to ward off the pyramid's cursed reputation. The rain sounds soft, pattering, like a gentle veil over the desert's harshness hum in the background, dulling the clink of tools and distant shouts, but they can't quiet the unease rippling through the laborers. You're back hauling limestone blocks, the rope burning your palms, but your focus is on the small scarab carved from bone, tied around your neck. It's warm from your skin, a fragile shield against the stories of accidents and omens that haunt Giza. Mainstream history notes that ancient Egyptians were deeply superstitious, relying on amulets and rituals to protect against misfortune. Scarabs, symbols of rebirth were common among workers, believed to guard against the sight dangers, falling stones, scorpions, or worse, the wrath of gods. You mutter a prayer to Sekhmet, asking for strength. As you pull the block, the sledge creaking under its weight. Kamwasset, roped in beside you, notices your grip on the amulet. That bug gonna lift this stone for you, he teases, and you roll your eyes. His jokes are a spark in this grim air, even if they don't ease your fear. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some workers buried owl feathers under blocks, thinking they'd keep evil spirits from the pyramid's core. You've seen it done, a quick ritual before a stone was set, and wondered if it's faith or desperation. Historians still argue whether these superstitions boosted morale or just masked terror accidents like that block pinning a man last week fuel the site's dark reputation. You don't know if the scarab works, but you clutch it tighter when the sledge wobbles, your heart lurching. The pyramid looms, its tears sharp against the dusk, and you feel its hunger, as if it's watching, waiting for a misstep. The overseer's whip cracks nearby, not striking, just a warning, and you pull harder, the rope biting deeper. You pass a team chanting a work song, their voices low, almost like a prayer. A memory flickers that potsherd note to your wife, still unsent. A reminder of what you're surviving for. The amulet's a small comfort, but it's not home. A bad joke ripples through your team. Why's the pyramid cursed? It's got Khufu's bad mood. You smirk, the humor a brief shield, and keep pulling. The block inching up the ramp. The rain sounds hum on, a gentle lie against the site's menace, urging you to stay steady. You do. The scarab pressed against your chest, praying it's enough to carry you through another day. The scarab amulet still rests against your chest, its faint weight a quiet anchor as you labor under the pharaoh's invisible gaze. His overseers enforcing loyalty with every barked order. The rain sounds soft, rhythmic, like a distant drizzle cradling the desert gently, muffling the creak of sledges and the grunts of your team. But they can't drown the pressure of Khufu's divine presence, felt in every whip's snap and every stone you haul. You're dragging a limestone block up a ramp, the rope searing your palms, each step a test of endurance. The pyramid looms, its tears clawing the sky, a monument to a god king who's as real to you as the dust in your lungs. Mainstream history tells us the pharaoh was seen as a living deity, his will absolute, his tomb a sacred duty that bound every worker. Khufu's name is whispered with reverence, even fear. And you've seen men bow when his cartouche is carved into a block. The overseer nearby, his coal-rimmed eyes sharp, shouts, "For the king's eternity." Pull, and you lean into the rope, not for Khufu, but because stopping means trouble. Kamwasset, beside you, mutters, "Hope his afterlife's worth this." You stifle a smirk. His defiance is a spark, but you keep it hidden. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some workers offered tiny clay statues to the pharaoh's Ka, his spirit, believing it ensured favor, or at least fewer lashings. You've seen them, crude figures left at makeshift altars, and wondered if they're bribes or prayers. Historians still argue whether loyalty to Khufu was genuine or coerced. Some say workers took pride in the pyramid, others that fear drove every swing. You feel both a flicker of awe for the structure, but mostly dread of the overseer's whip, coiled like a snake at his hip. The ramp's slope bites your legs, and you steal a glance at the pyramid's casing stones, gleaming in the late light. A memory flickers that owl feather buried under a block, a desperate charm against this place's curse. You wonder if Khufu knows your name, or if you're just another ant in his divine plan. The sledge wobbles, and you tighten your grip, heart pounding. A bad joke ripples through the team. Why's Khufu so quiet? He's saving his voice for eternity. You chuckle, the sound dry, and pull harder, the block inching upward. The overseer rides closer, his donkey snorting, and you keep your eyes down, the scarab warm against your skin. The rain sounds hum on, a gentle lie against the weight of divine expectation, urging you to keep going. You do, step by agonizing step, serving a pharaoh who will never thank you, his tomb swallowing your days one block at a time. The pharaoh's shadow still looms, but now you're witnessing the pyramid's slow rise. Each block a testament to your pain and a flicker of pride. The rain sounds soft, pattering, like a gentle whisper from a far-off storm hum in the background, dulling the scrape of sledges and the shouts of laborers. But they can't ease the burn in your muscles or the weight of years spent building this monument. You're hauling a limestone block up a newly extended ramp, the rope cutting into your palms, the sledge creaking under the stone's mass. The pyramid's higher now, its tiers sharper against the dawn sky, and you can't help but pause, mid-pull, to trace its growing silhouette a marvel, even if it's devouring you. Mainstream history estimates the Great Pyramid took 10 to 20 years to build, with over 2 million blocks stacked by hands like yours. You've been here seasons, maybe years. It's hard to track time when every day's the same grind. The block you're hauling will sit on a middle tier, part of the core, and you feel its place in the puzzle. A small piece of something eternal. Kemwaset, roped beside you, pants. Look at that beast grow. We're mad to keep feeding it. You nod, half smiling his grumblings a comfort, like that scarab amulet still hanging around your neck. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some workers scratched tally marks on ramps, counting blocks they'd hauled. A quiet boast, or maybe just proof they survived. You've added a few, hidden under a sandbag, and it feels like stealing a piece of the pyramid's glory. Historians still argue Whether laborers felt pride or resentment, some say the pyramid's grandeur inspired you, others that it crushed your spirit. You feel both the structure's majesty lifts you, but its cost your sweat. Your years drags you down. The block inches upward, and you pull, the ramp's slope punishing your legs. You pass an artisan carving a casing stone, his chisel precise. And remember those red painted tools, their smug superiority. Your tally marks are humbler, but they're yours. A memory flickers, that unsent potsherd note to your wife. Still waiting for a courier. The thought stings, but the pyramid's rise pulls you back. Its progress, a strange mirror to your own endurance. A bad joke ripples through the team. Why's the pyramid so tall? It's reaching for our last breath. You chuckle, the sound rough, and lean into the rope. The block shifting closer to its place. The overseer's whip cracks nearby. A warning, and you keep pulling. The pyramid's shadow cooling the ramp. The rain sounds hum on, a gentle lie against the grind, urging you to see this through. You do. The block settling into place. And for a moment, you feel it, the pride of building something that'll outlast you, even if it's breaking you first. The pyramid's rising tiers cast a long shadow over you, but your body's starting to betray you, worn down by years of hauling and hunger. The rain sounds soft, rhythmic, like a gentle hand smoothing the desert's edges hum in the background, muffling the creak of sledges and the grunts of your team. But they can't soothe the dull pain in your back or the hollow ache in your stomach. You're dragging a limestone block up a ramp, the rope's fibers biting into your blistered palms. Each step slower than the last, your strength's fading, your breath's shallower, and you notice it more each day. Malnutrition, injuries, and endless toil are carving you away, just like you've carved the stone. Mainstream history reveals that skeletal remains from Giza's workers show signs of arthritis, fractured bones, and stunted growth, proof of a diet too meager for the labor demanded. You're luckier than some you haven't broken anything yet, but your joints creak like old wood, and your ribs show through your skin. The bread and onions keep you moving, but barely. Kmwaset, pulling beside you, notices your sluggish pace. You look like a half-dead donkey, he says, half joking, but his eyes are worried. You force a grin, his concerns rare. Like water in this place. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some workers drank a foul mix of crushed garlic and beer, swearing it restored their strength, though it mostly just cleared their sinuses. You've tried it once, gagging on the taste, and stuck to water since. Historians still argue whether the workforce's health was managed with basic care or left to collapse. Some say medics set bones. Others that you were expendable. You've seen a healer wrap a sprained wrist. But mostly, you're on your own, limping through the grind, the block shifts, and you stumble, catching yourself on the rope, your heart pounding too hard for comfort. You glance at the pyramid, its casing stones gleaming, and feel a pang, that unsent, potsherd note to your wife, still in your sack. A reminder of what you're fighting to return to. The scarab amulet bounces against your chest, but its protection feels thin now. No match for your body's slow surrender. A bad joke ripples through the team. Why's the stone so heavy? It's eating our souls. You chuckle. The sound weak, and pull harder. The ramp slope mocking your faltering steps. The overseer's shadow looms, his whip coiled, and you push on, not for Khufu, but for the hope of seeing home again. The rain sounds hum on, a gentle lie against your fading strength, urging you to keep going. You do, the block inching upward, but each pull feels like it's stealing more than you can give. The pyramid's hunger outlasting your own. The pyramid's shadow feels heavier now, its tears nearly complete, and you're left wondering if your labor will earn you a place in the afterlife, or just a final rest. The rain sounds soft, pattering, like a tender whisper from a world beyond Giza. Hum gently, softening the creak of the sledge and the rasp of your own shallow breaths. But they can't quiet the ache in your bones or the question gnawing at your soul. You're hauling one last limestone block up a high ramp, the rope's frayed fibers cutting into your palms, each step a battle against your weakening body. The pyramid's almost done, a towering testament to Khufu's divine ambition. And you're so close to the end of the day, the season, maybe your time here. Mainstream history suggests workers believe their toil for the pharaoh's tomb might grant spiritual rewards, a nod from the gods for serving a living deity. You clutch your scarab amulet, its bone surface worn smooth, and murmur a prayer to Osiris, hoping your sweat has bought you something eternal. The block inches upward, and you glance at the pyramid's peak, now capped with a golden pyramidion that catches the dusk's light. Kemoiset, pulling beside you, wheezes. Think we'll get a throne up there. You smirk, his sarcasms fainter now, but it's still a spark in this fading grind. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some workers left tiny offerings beads, shells at the pyramid's base, believing they'd carry their names to the afterlife. You've done it. Slipping a chipped flint under a block, a small plea for remembrance. Historians still argue whether this belief was widespread or just a desperate hope among the exhausted. Did you truly think Khufu's glory would lift you? Or was it all for survival? You're not sure anymore. The pyramid's too vast. Your life too small. The block settles into place, and you slump, catching your breath. The ramp's edge sharp against your shins. Hey everyone. We've reached this point. Have you drifted off to sleep yet? If you're still awake, drop a comment to let me know where you're at and how you're feeling. But if you're already fast asleep, I wish you a deep, restful sleep filled with beautiful dreams. The rain sounds are still falling, soft and steady. So let's ease into the final stretch, carried by that gentle patter. A memory flickers that unsent potsherd note to your wife. Still in your sack, a tether to a life you might reclaim. The pyramid stands, nearly finished, and you feel a strange mix of pride and loss. A bad joke ripples through the team. Why's the pyramid done? It's tired of us, you chuckle weakly, leaning on the sledge, and look out over Giza, the Nile glinting in the distance. The overseer's gone quiet, his whip still. And for a moment, you just breathe. The scarab warm against your chest. The afterlife, a faint hope against the desert's weight. The rain sounds hum on, a gentle guide toward rest, and you let them carry you, your eyes heavy, the pyramid's silhouette blurring. You've given it everything, your strength, your years, maybe your soul. Now, you dream of rest, whether here or beyond. As the stones stand silent, eternal, the world softens now. The pyramid's sharp edges fading into the dusk of your mind. The rain sounds wrap you tighter, their gentle cadence a blanket, pulling you toward a quieter place. You're no longer hauling, no longer breaking, just resting. The desert's heat cooling, the Nile's murmur closer. Your scarab's still there, a small weight, promising you've earned something. Even if it's just this moment, let the stones stand. Let Khufu's glory shine. You're slipping into a softer rhythm, where ramps don't climb and ropes don't burn. The rain falls, steady, warm, and you sink deeper. The grind finally loosening its grip. Sleep's waiting, gentle as a river, and you're almost there, carried on a whisper of peace.